Maregaal. Welcome to my YouTube channel, and please hit the like button and the subscribe button. And today I want to talk about the 10 Commandments. In Judaism we say the 10 sayings because the word there in Hebrew is the 10 words. And so there's not mitzvot there. It's actually the 10 sayings or 10 words. So anyway, here we go. And they're a little bit different from what you get from Christendom. And there's a reason for that. But nonetheless, here they are. The first saying is, I am the Lord your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt. Now, if you remember, right before the golden calf, the people said, as for this Moses who led us out of the land of Egypt, it was not Moses. It was El and him alone. El is the genuine and ancient name of El Shaddai, the God of Israel. Okay. The second one, which is different from the Christianity one, is Christianity will split the second one. You shall have no other gods, and put that with the first saying, and then divide idols to their second commandment. But anyway, so the second saying is, you shall have no other gods alongside of me, meaning you shall have no other God, period. That's it. And you shall also not make a graven image of any other god. That includes El himself. And so no idols at all, no bowing down before a statue, or try not to also imagine what he looks like as well. That's what the commandment is basically referring to as well. The third saying is, do not take El's name in vain. And what does that mean? Is it cursing? No, because that is referring to blasphemy. What the third saying is, do not misuse the name of El, and he will not take it lightly. If you misuse his name, what is that referring to? It is referring to like taking oaths or swearing, like in a court of law, I swear I'll tell the truth and nothing but the truth. Or when you say a wedding vow, if that's a vow you say in El's name, you have to, basically what it's teaching is, you must keep your word. And it's even, it's just not point blank lying or bluffing to somebody, but it's, you give a high emphasis of, I am going to do this, and period, and you have my word for it. So there's the third one. The fourth one is to keep the Shabbat, or the Sabbath. A lot of people, especially in Christendom, don't understand when the Sabbath is. They think it could be any random day, just as long as you have a day of rest. No, because El doesn't change. He has a certain law, and he precisely said what particular day this should be. Every 6 days you can work, but on the seventh day you cannot work. You have to set it apart. And there's two different traditions which you see in the Tanakh. One is to remember the 6 days of creation, and that God worked on the seventh day, but eventually he rested on the seventh day. That is, if you read the precise wording in Hebrew, he actually did do something on the seventh day, didn't say what, but then he rested and was refreshed. And the other tradition is, we were slaves in the land of Egypt, and therefore we weren't allowed to rest because we're slaves. And so to remember that, we are now given a day of rest, so that so we could be refreshed, and so forth and so forth. So the fifth thing is to honor your father and mother, and that is pretty deep in and of itself, but anything that they say that is good and wholesome and holy, obey them and honor them. Honor their knowledge, because they're older than you and they're supposed to be more educated than you, and honor them. Just don't rile them up. Oh, you don't understand. Things like that. And others would be like, even after they die, honor their memory as well. Go to the cemetery, you know, not pray to them because that would be necromancy, but to clean up the tombstone, clean up the tombstone or the tomb, the mausoleum, as that is an honorable deed to them, and part of honoring your parents. Don't backbite uh, your parents as well. Like, oh, my parents are awful, when they're not, just because you have selfish reasons of as a kid. Anyway, then the sixth commandment is different from what you see in a lot of Christian Bibles. It actually says you must not commit murder, which is different from killing. Murder is taking the life of an innocent person maliciously, where killing is somebody who is guilty of a capital offense. So there's a big difference there. The seventh commandment is you must not commit adultery, and that is not the same as fornication. And also, this is a deep subject. You can go on my videos where I talk about adultery, I believe. Anyway, adultery is based on the status of the woman, not the man. And so, because back in those days, polygamy was allowed, and because the law is eternal, it's still allowed, but not in America. So you have to honor the country where you're at. So the eighth commandment is you must not steal. And stealing is a variety of ways to steal. I mean, you could rob somebody at gunpoint, or back then at knife point, or whatever, even today by a knife or a bow and arrow, things like that. Or you could rob them while they're not at home, or they go into a store, you break into their car or something. But another point of stealing is being deceptive. I'll give you an example. If you own a store and you say $1 for a pound of bananas, okay, it's pretty frank. And so say someone has a pound of bananas, or excuse me, say you tweak the scale so it reflects a pound, but it's only like a 3/4 of a pound, and you still charge them $1 for 3/4. So you're ripping them off or jipping them off. Okay, so that's theft that way as well. So you cannot steal in any way possible, or through manipulation, things like that. Commandment number 9 says to the effect of, thou shalt not bear false testimony against your neighbor. So what does that mean? In a paraphrase form, people might translate as simply, thou shalt not lie, or you must not lie. But that's not what's referring to as some generic lying. It is referring to getting someone in trouble by telling a false story, bringing in a false accusation. So if you call like 911 and you give a false accusation against somebody, that is what that is referring to. Do not bring up a false accusation against somebody so they get in trouble. So then commandment number 10 is a motive process. Thou must not covet. And so because coveting leads to a whole lot of problems. So thou shalt not covet anything but that belongs to your neighbor, whether his wife, which leads to adultery. Do not covet his house. Do not covet his ox or donkey, or his, well, in the scripture says his male or female slave. Of course, slavery is wrong. So, or anything else that belongs to your neighbor, do not covet. Now, there's a difference of unkosher coveting versus kosher coveting. So if somebody sees for sale sign on a boat or something and he wants to, and he kind of lusts after that or covets after that, that is a kosher coveting because it's for sale. Or if it's not for sale and you just walk up to the gentleman's door and say, or female for that matter, hey, is your boat for sale? I would like to buy it, or can I offer you a price? So that way is kosher. But what happens is it could lead to theft, adultery, or murder. Just all depends because of coveting. Say, for example, a person might be poor and they want to rob a convenience store, so you're coveting money, okay? And in the process, in order to get that money, you might have a pistol or something. And so you go in there with a pistol, hey, give me your money, and they have a pistol back, and so you shoot it and you murder them based on the coveting. So coveting leads to a whole lot of problems. So you must not covet. Anyway, those are the 10 sayings that you may not get in the church or the synagogues. Anyway, hit the like button and the subscribe button for more interesting biblical content and how to interpret the law where you should.